Welcome to the Blue Heart Podcast. I'm your host and conversational guide, Lieutenant Joe Pangaro. This podcast is for you, the men and women of law enforcement, because ours is a noble profession, worthy of your heart, your passion, and your life. Now, let's get to the heart of the matter. Hey everybody, Lieutenant Joe here. Today we're going to talk about something really important, law enforcement training. Now, if you're a patrol officer, you're a detective, and you say, that's for the training officer. Really, the purpose of this episode is to introduce you to something that maybe you've heard about, you don't really know a lot about it, but I'm going to tell you about it, and that's the use of airsoft equipment. The use of airsoft equipment is an amazing tool for training, and I'm going to go through the whole reasons why. And my guest today is John Graham. John is the law enforcement and military training manager for the KWA Airsoft company. Now, there's 1,000 airsoft companies out there. I have researched them, and as I went through trying to find equipment for my training classes, right? Because I use airsoft equipment in my training class, their narcotics class, and a bunch of other ones. And I did research, and I had to try and find the best company with the best equipment at the right price so that I could do quality training. And when I looked around, I found KWA, and that's how I found John. So this episode is brought to you by Blue 360 Media. They are my publisher of my books. They are an amazing location for anything law enforcement. They have every state manual, every state guide, updates on law, anything to do with training for law enforcement. And in the future, we're coming up with some video training, which I'll be heavily involved in. And our other sponsor is the Medical Essential Diagnostics Group. Right now, they're limited to New Jersey. What they do is they have 5 offices throughout the state. And for no cost to you, any first responder or any state worker, municipal worker, can go there and you get a health screening, soup to nuts, in one day at no cost to you. And you find out if there's anything wrong. And the key here is that you want to know as early as you can if you have a problem that's building, so you can work through your career healthy and then enjoy your retirement. So the medicalessentialdiagnostics.com, go check them out, and blue360media.com. That's the publishers. So they bring this episode and the Blue Heart Podcast to you. So John, welcome aboard. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Good to see you again, bud.
All right. So I guess to get right to the point, let me tell a little story about how I found airsoft.
Okay.
I had been part of my police department. We did a lot of training. When I became the training officer in my agency, I wanted to change it from death by PowerPoint and make it more exciting, more interesting, something that we could do instead of just sitting talking about things physically get up and go do things. And somebody in our agency, one of our armorers, had brought in a couple years early this simunition stuff, right? And boy, it was good. The simunition stuff was great. I mean, you shoot the guns, boom, there's a bang, it shoots a heavy duty round. It is pretty good for simulating real shooting scenarios. The problem that we had was that we had to wear heavy coats, we had to wear heavy protection on your head, and we did have people get injured. They got shot, and one guy had a busted bone in his wrist because he got hit with the round in the wrong spot, and they were expensive. I think it was $500 or $600 for a slide for your handgun, for one gun. And then the bullets were $1 to $2 a piece to shoot. And so while we had the stuff and we used it and we liked it, it was bulky equipment we had to wear. It took away some of the realism, the spontaneity, and we couldn't go out and shoot tons of rounds, right? So I started to see, well, this had value, because anything that you can put people in a position where there's stress in the training and there's realism, they're going to be better off, right? We all practice in the academy, right? Remember they had you jump out of the car and you had to wrestle a guy, but you're holding a shotgun. What do you do now? The reason we do all that stuff is to prepare you so that when you're out on the road and these things happen, you've already got some experience with it. So I said, there's got to be a better way. So I started looking around, and a friend of mine, non-law enforcement guy, I was at his house one day and he's shooting these guns in his backyard that shot this little 6mm plastic pellet, and it was as accurate as could be. I couldn't believe it. The gun cycled. And I said, how much you pay for that? He says, oh, I think it was like $45 at the time. I said, let me try it. I couldn't believe how accurate it was. That's airsoft stuff. I said, airsoft?
Yeah.
what the heck is airsoft, right? As I started to learn about it, you start to see that it was a burgeoning industry at the time, but it never really worked its way into law enforcement. Over the last couple of years, it is starting to get a foothold in law enforcement. That's why I said, hey, in my classes, we do narcotics investigations, and at some point there's a raid in the class. And just pointing guns at each other and pretending didn't work out, and I couldn't use the simunitions. I don't want nobody to get hurt. So I found this airsoft and I bought some of it. And I found it was amazing. You had real shooting scenarios. The guys and girls in the class really got to see how they took a corner. If they took it bad and they got shot, they realized in the real world, you would have lost your shoulder. Right. So it had great value. And then I said, I got to replace this equipment because it all wore out and it was starting to look around. And I met this young man right here at a trade show. And I was at the chief of police convention, I think in New Jersey. And
that's right.
And I met John, and they had a whole house set up and they're shooting. I said, let me see. Well, I've seen lots of airsoft equipment, some of it pretty good. I actually worked with Crossman to try and design some stuff about 10 years ago, and they decided to do it in a different way. When I saw this KWA stuff, I couldn't believe how realistic it was. I mean, it's heavy, it's metal, feels like a gun, it cycles, and it's very accurate. So that's why I hooked up with John, and I said, hey, listen, you got to help me out here. How do I get this equipment into my training? And we worked that out. And I said, you know what? I bet a lot of cops would like to know about this stuff because it makes the training more realistic, and it makes the time that you have to train for things, serious things where we can get hurt and killed. It can help us to be better. So that's why John's here. So John, why don't you give us a little bit of your background? How'd you get involved with KWA, and who are you? What are you all about?
Hey, thanks, Joe. So I'm John. I work with KWA. So how I got started, real briefly, if they found me off Instagram. I do firearms training, and I also played airsoft, and I've searched around for the most realistic 1-for-1 scale that I could find that I could continue, because I was just getting off the Army, and I wanted to continue, having that military or muscle memory, and KWA was it. I've done other companies, and KWA was it. And then after a couple of years went by, they saw me on Instagram and they say, hey, we're trying to build up our law enforcement military. We noticed you got some training. Why don't you hop on? And this was a SHOT Show 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they like the way how I talk to people, how I flow. I'm not very awkward. I'm not very stiff. And they said, hey, how would you like to continue coming to these shows and, want to be part of our staff? And we'll train you on our product. I said, oh my God. I'm a fan till this day. I'm still a fanboy for this company. I can't believe that they pay me to do this stuff. And so that's it. That's where it just took off. They sent me to different shows. I did to represent the company in different venues, mostly in the law enforcement military. Started out in the consumer, and then they kind of switched me over to what my strong points are. My background: I've done 5 years Army, combat veteran, 3rd Infantry Division. I was a state park ranger for 6 years or so. And most recently, I've been a private armed security officer in Portland, Oregon for like the last 10 years. I did them both full time.
Right. So you're in ground zero.
So now I work
craziness, right? You're in ground zero, Portland, Oregon.
Oh, absolutely. I worked through the protests. I've worked in contract with Homeland Security. It's still continuing to be crazy. And it's pretty incredible how two worlds collide and gel, because working with KWA, I've had private companies, agencies that reach out to me and they're like, you're like the only guy in the Western United States that does this. How can we get more of this? And I was like, well, let me send you a package.
Right.
And so that's how it all got started. And I met you at the event in New Jersey. And let me tell you, by all of the events that I've done, New Jersey was probably the best, because if you remember, receiving those guns came down right to the wire because I thought I wasn't going to get any guns.
Yes.
Thank you, Paola, if she's watching, for sending the package right on time. And Debbie, thank you.
Yes. So what we did is, and again, right now we have no relationship other than I know John and I know their equipment. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh, Lieutenant Joe's getting a piece of the action, I don't get anything out of John. What I've done is I've researched different kinds of airsoft equipment, and you might have your own favorite, but I'm telling you, I looked at this KWA stuff. John brought stuff to a show we went to. He let me shoot it. They sent me a gun for me to look at, and I tried it. I tried it on targets, and it really quality stuff. If you're going to spend money, you want to buy something that's going to be quality and going to last a while. So that's why I like KWA, and that's why I have John here to talk to us. So, John, the applications for airsoft equipment. First of all, if you've never seen it, or you might be saying to yourself, yeah, that's kids' toys. My son has an airsoft gun. And that's the reality. There are kids' toys that you can buy, for $5, you can get an airsoft gun. We're talking about military and law enforcement grade equipment. So where's the application for this? Well, I saw as the training officer, I remember trying to do, some felony car stop practice with some of the officers, right? We had a training day. Instead of sitting in the office, we're going to go out. And the scenario was there's a car that was involved in a robbery 2 towns over, and now you spot it, and you and your partner are going to stop this car. Now, prior to that, what we would do is we simulated, right? We simulated a car stop, and then the bad guy jumps out, and you do whatever you're going to do. With the airsoft stuff, I could now make it realistic. I could say, okay, listen, you guys in the car, you just did rob a store. You're both wanted. You don't want to go back to jail. If you see an opportunity to fire at the officers, you're going to do it. Now, I didn't tell the cops that. That wasn't the training. All they had to wear was their uniform, their regular uniform, and I gave them a set of eyeglasses, to cover their eyeballs. Other than that, they needed no other equipment. So we could practice with this stuff all the time. The rounds, I think it was 10,000 rounds, was probably 15 or 20 bucks. So we kept that on site. It uses green gas, which is inexpensive. And like I said, the guns were quality and heavy duty. So they would stop the car, and they would get, sometimes the scenario was they didn't know that these people had been involved in a robbery. Sometimes the dispatcher would say, hey, just so you know, that car is wanted out of Asbury Park. It was just involved in an armed robbery. And now the cops have to interact with the people in the car and do the felony stop thing. And then if there was a shooting scenario, the officers would see if the positions that they took put them in jeopardy, so that they could learn, if they ever have to stop a car like this again, potential shooters, where should they set up? How should they talk to them? Where would they position their vehicle? All very important things that we don't think about very often. We just go out in the street and we're going to do it. We'll catch a robber. Well, cops get killed. We did de-escalation training, mentally disturbed people with weapons. We did all kinds of things using this airsoft equipment. So there are a ton of applications for you in training in any situation where a weapon can come up, a domestic violence case, an ambush case, a robbery case. It just goes on and on and on. And that's why I wanted to bring John in to tell you about their stuff. So, John, what is what kind of handguns do you got? What models do you have that would fit cops' holsters, rifles? What does KWA have?
Oh my God, we have tons of stuff. If they still using 1911s, we have some that are similar to Glocks, 225, 226. Probably the most iconic one that we've had agencies buy is the LM4 because it simulates a carbine. And in fact, we're expanding this more we have pre-bundled packages. So for an agency, and I know money right now, ever since the George Floyd thing and the defund the police kind of picked up steam, for about 26, $3,000, you can get 4 rifles, 4 pistols of your choosing, 8 spare mags, and 25,000 rounds in a Pelican case ready to set up, and you can have that deployed anywhere. We have tons of things. In fact, we're coming up with new stuff. There's 2 new guns that we're going to be announcing. Maybe at SHOT Show. Our newest one, that the ATPZ we announced last year, that fits most popular holsters, Safariland, Bianchi, Blackhawk. All of our guns are matched to work with these holsters. Same thing with the optics. Our most popular one is the LM4D. If you have accessories such as scopes, lights, PEC box, it works with a rifle. So it all depends on what the agency is looking for, and plus we're also working and expanding our options.
Sure.
All of our stuff is posted. Go ahead.
I said that's great.
Yeah, all of this stuff is available online on our website, KWAUSA.com or store.KWAUSA.com. The most important thing that probably would I tell agencies is that and not a lot of companies can get away to say this, but we are classified as by the ATF as a non-firearm. And what I mean is that because the way we design our LM4, which is proprietary, by the way, it will not accept any actual M4, AR-15, bolt carrier groups, magazines, upper and lower. However, the bolt carrier group still breaks apart just like a real one, still functions, you still feel recoil. The magazine weight and feel looks just like an AR. In fact, can I show them right now? I have one right behind me.
Go right ahead, go grab it. And I can tell you, I've used all this stuff, and that's why I'm using it in my classes, you know, because it's amazing stuff.
So this is their newest and greatest, the LM4D. As you can see, the bolt carrying group, just like the real deal. So imagine if you're firing it, and it's not quiet. It's a very audible pop sound that you hear with this thing. And if you have that one recruit that you're, I don't know, you're kind of concerned about them handling a real firearm, Airsoft is the best way for them to give them that familiarity, that muscle memory, without giving them a real firearm. And so I'm going to show you how easy this thing is to break, just like that. Just like the real one. You got the pins here on the side. I don't know if you can see that. There it is right there. You break it apart. We do this. Boom. Done deal. You can teach what we call in the military PMCS, preventative maintenance and checks, how to clean it, how to, you know, do all the stuff you're supposed to do to make your gun nice, shiny, and happy. We'll put it back together, just like that.
Outstanding.
No problem. Yeah, just like that.
Now, when you were talking about that price point, because that when I was the training officer, that was important to me. You know, obviously we all have limited budgets, how much we can spend on training, how we spend on equipment. When we were into the simunitions, like I said, it's about $500 or $600 for the metal slide that would go onto our guns, so that we could fire the simunition rounds. Well, if we had 4 of them, that's $2,000 right there just for 4 guns. That's not rifles. That's not getting a whole raid team outfitted. So when I started doing the training, the class we have is called Hyperdrive Narcotics Investigation. It's a 3-day soup to nuts investigation course where you got to do surveillances, you follow people around, you have to go in places and buy drugs, you got to do undercover. So we teach all that. And on the last day, we do the raid day. And you have to actually set up as a team, you know, 6, 7 people going to go raid a location, and the bad guys have weaponry. We do not set this up in the training specifically to be a shooting scenario, because that's, you know, how many times do you shoot your gun really in your career? It hardly ever really happens, but we have to be prepared when it does. So the shooting potential is there in every scene. And in the course of doing this class, I've had, over the course of 10 years doing this program, I have had situations where somebody, the actors are given free rein. If they see a weakness in the team, or if I give them a certain thing, they may try and react and create a shooting scenario, and the officers have to shoot. And if they get the bad guy or the bad girl, that was what had it. But they learned. The learning with the airsoft is so realistic. We had a guy stop a car one time, right? And he, 6 feet over, and to turn the wheels, and he's behind there, very bad position. And there was 2 people in the car. Well, the one guy, he was talking to the driver. The other guy leaned out with a rifle and boom, dinged this guy right in the shoulder. And he was like, wow, I guess I took a bad position. We've done active shooter training where they're coming down a hallway with airsoft equipment, and the shooter also has airsoft equipment. They turn a corner and they didn't cut the pie just right. And the shooter lit them up, and 3 or 4 of them got hit. So you start to learn from realism. Wow, I just got dinged. If that was a real bullet, I might have lost a limb, or I could be dead. So you learn, it focuses the training. And because of the price, you're saying 4 rifles, would you say a rifle and 4 handguns? What's that package you have?
It was, it's the squad package, and it is $3,000. And you get 4 rifles, 4 pistols, 8 spare magazines, and 25,000 rounds in a nice foam injected Pelican case to transfer.
That's awesome. So 4 handguns and 4 rifles plus ammunition and magazines for, I say, $3,000. I would have spent that to do 5 handgun slides without buying anything, and that's why I saw the value in this. So I got my department to buy it. We brought it in. We used this equipment on every in-service training day, because I found ways to do the other classroom stuff at different times using the computers and all that. So we had free days. We did 5-minute scenarios where we said, hey, this guy just came in and shot this clerk and took off into that neighborhood. Now you got to go find him. And everyone had airsoft, and it was a great training tool. And that's why I'm bringing this information to you. So, John, you gave us KWAUSA.com. Is that the website?
Correct. Store.kwausa.com. Yeah.
Okay. And if you want to reach out to John and speak to him, it's John, the letter G, like in George, at KWAUSA.com. That's how you reach out to him. You deal with him directly. It's like I said, I'm not a part of this. I'm bringing this information to you because I've used it and it is excellent. It will improve the way your officers function to do their job. You can't go wrong with this. So John, I know I did a lot of the talking, but it's because I'm so thrilled with this stuff and I want the officers out there to know about it. But anything you'd like to tell them extra about the airsoft stuff?
There's one thing that I want to portray to people when they're considering airsoft. And this is according to the Department of Justice statistics, that the average time an officer gets on the range in dealing with force on force has de-escalated tremendously due to part because of defunding. Now, when they're shopping for options, right now the trend is augmented reality, virtual reality. And what I mean by that is that most of these companies that they're using these training platforms are using our guns. So let's say you decide to get KWA right now, and let's say 5 years down the road, you get massive amount of funding to upgrade. Well, you already have the base platform, which is our guns. So you have Invarious, Laser Ammo, other companies that uses VR, they use our guns. So you're already ahead of the curve and you would be saving yourself a lot of money. The other thing is that when you hear airsoft, 6mm training, this is not kid stuff. I urgently, highly suggest that if you're a purchaser, a chief lieutenant, whatever case you may be, we have demo packages. Shoot me an email. I could send you a gun and a pistol of your liking to your agency, and you can feel how this gun performs. It's not the stuff that you're going to buy at Walmart. It's not the stuff that it's going to break down and fall apart on you. I mean, it's real for metal, 1-for-1 scale. And the third, our client list: Homeland Security, Sheriff's Office, DHS, ATF, oddly enough, Space Force, the U.S. military, the Marine Corps, Army, National Guard, Border Patrol. That's just to name a few. We have a proven track record, and we've been doing this for the last 15, 16 years, and we're wanting to continue and be a prominent foothold, and we want to be part of that training plan. U.S. space support. You're always going to get somebody here in the U.S. If it's not me, it's somebody at the warehouse. And I might work for the company, but I'm still a full-time officer, so I know what you see. In fact, I still work Portland. I'm on my 4 days off right now, but I still work the shifts. I work 3 on, 4 off. So I still work my 12-hour shifts. So I know what you guys are seeing out there. In fact, maybe a little worse because, well, it's Portland.
That's great.
But yeah, so, we are here to support law enforcement and military, and I personally would like to see more of the Northeast agencies. You guys had treated me with love when I was there. It was incredible. I loved it, and I want to be able to provide you guys to make mistakes with our guns. More mistakes means more effectiveness out in the field, and want to create more, be able to have more stress scenarios at a safe environment using our guns. So this is as safe as it's going to get. You can't beat this. And the ammo that we have, it's biodegradable. So it's not like sim rounds. You got to go, pick up the shells and whatnot. This is, you just leave it in the ground and it just disappears.
Right. John, that's all excellent point of view. And I think that's great. I was going to ask you who are some of the people that use it. And you're talking big time law enforcement and military agencies using KWA Airsoft stuff. It is the way of the future.
Absolutely.
And you can get in now, for $3,000 or $4,000, you can get all the equipment you need to go out there and start training whenever you have the opportunity. Because you're right, training goes down. First thing that goes into budget is training. But if you can get out there, and you might be saving your officers' lives or saving civilians that you're out there to protect because you practiced more. So in the description of this episode, I'm going to put John's contact information and the KWA information. You can always reach out to me also if you have any more questions. But John, I want to thank you very much for being here today. This was
Thanks,
really
Joe.
great because it's good stuff. And you know what? I'll be in touch in the next couple of days, and we'll talk about 2024, which is coming up quick.
Woo, I can't wait.
Lieutenant Joe and the Blue Heart Podcast Network would like to thank our sponsors. Blue 360 Media. You can find them at www.blue360media.com. And Medical Essential Diagnostics. You can find them at www.med-nj.com. We would also like to thank the Blue Heart Network production team, led by Senior Executive Director Todd Pangaro. Be careful out there. Do what's right.